are here. Pausing that. And boom. Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Have You Seen This with Frank and.
Sarah. And Bindi.
Yes.
Bindi's here. She's right there.
Oh, it's Bindi. 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 Yes.
She growled. She got upset because she wasn't introduced.
That's what happened last time. I could feel it. I could feel it. So this week is a little bit sooner than usual, but since I'm a little busier towards the end of the month and you as well, so we bumped it up a few weeks. But yeah, it's so cool. I like talking about this one because I just watched them today. They're fresh in my mind. And we'll start with you. What was your pick and why'd you pick it?
Why did I pick this? Things I was asking myself midnight last night when I was sobbing, bawling my eyes out. So my pick was Beaches. So a little background on Beaches. My mom's birthday is this month in 10 days on the 28th. And this was one of her absolute favorite movies. So, and then we also found out I've never read the book, but apparently it's a book and it fit with the theme. So we were going to do it. And Beaches tells the story of, it was really, the last time I watched it, I was young. I mean, maybe like, I don't know, 12, 13. So it's been a long time, but we listened to that soundtrack obsessively growing up, like in the car. Everywhere we drove, it was the Beaches soundtrack. But it was interesting watching it as an adult because it follows this story of female friendship through the years. And it starts with a young Amy Farrah Fowler, found that out last night, playing the young Bette Midler, Cece Bloom. Bloom.
Yeah, yep, Cece Bloom, yep.
And Vivian, or not Vivian. Wow, what was the name? What was the other one girl's name?
Oh God, you're testing me. I just know as Barbara Hershey. That's all I know. That's the actress's name, Barbara Hershey.
The brunette name will come to me. So they meet when they were 11 years old on the beach in Atlantic City, and Hershey's character is lost and comes from like a more wealthy, ritzy background, whereas Cece is, scrappy, grew up in the Bronx, wants to be a star, wants to be a performer. And they form this really, they really only spent like 10 minutes or a couple hours with each other, but they create this beautiful friendship. They decide they're best friends and they become pen pals for years. And they're writing each other, and the movie's kind of going on and being narrated through time via these letters, right? Like, oh, my mom moved to Miami, and I just went to law school, and they go years without seeing each other until one day Hershey's character decides to leave her life, her entrapment of wealth, right? Her dad is kind of like forcing her to be this person she doesn't want to be. And she leaves her high power lawyer job and shows up at Cece's practice and singing practice and says like, I just left everything. Can I move in with you? So they become roommates in their young 20s. And it's kind of like, it's following them through their life and meeting their partners, meeting men, becoming successful, having like arguments and a falling out, and ultimately to the very tragic, terrible ending of this movie where Hershey's character gets
Hillary.
I knew it was an H name, Hillary. Hillary gets diagnosed with viral cardiomyopathy, and she has a daughter who is 11. And Cece kind of comes in at the end and becomes part of their life and takes care of Hillary as she's dying, and then becomes the caregiver and mother to her daughter, who is named after her, who is Victoria Cecilia Whitney, which I remember that name. And it just, what really struck me about it, watching this as an adult, and also yesterday was my best girlfriend's birthday, so I was like feeling equally as like sad about like,
oh man, yeah, so it's all there.
Yeah, all of the emotions. And it just struck me because I haven't seen many movies that really portray female friendship in this way. And it was so interesting because watching it's a 2-hour movie, but it goes by really fast, and it spans over the course of 30 years. And in that, I was just noticing myself having these feelings of like, this is literally how fast life goes. Like, it was like just yesterday, I feel like I was going to the fair, right?
Yeah.
Where I grew up and with my family, and now 15, 20 years have gone by, and here I am. And it was really jarring to me to see how quickly life goes by and see that on screen.
Mm-hmm.
And also very interesting to see how a friendship evolves, right? And like it can go through jealousy and anger and highs and lows and successes. But at the end of the day, these two women were so committed to each other, even when they weren't speaking, right? When they had a
Mm-hmm.
falling out over a man, obviously, always, and the power of that friendship in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it's a tearjerker. It's a really cool movie. It made me think of, you're probably more aware of this, Frank, but there's that it's like a stamp of approval, like for female films that portray females, not
Mm-hmm.
like, there's like the checklist.
Yeah, like like female. Yeah, I guess what you mean.
But
Yeah.
but there's like an actual thing, and I was like,
I didn't know there's an actual thing. I thought it was just meant like you just have to show somebody this. Like you have to, like, if like a guy were to show their son something, it'd be like Godfather. Like, is it like that? Like if you're women, like you'd have to show your daughter beaches, or is it an actual list?
No, there was like, it's kind of like the Rosenbaum. It was like a criteria created by a female filmmaker, I believe.
Okay.
That looks at movies and like asks like simple questions like, do two women dialogue with each other about something other than relationships and makeup and like, and like to show like this movie as a portrayal of, I'm going to butcher this. I'm going to look it up because I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I was not aware of this list, but it was a good movie. And since you're talking about female relationships and friendships, I got to recommend a movie to you that you could watch off air. It doesn't have to be the next episode or anything, but there's a movie called Girlfriends that came out in the 70s. And I think it took like a couple of years to make because it was just like low budget. Ooh. And it's like really like, it was like made by women, and like they filmed it over a couple of years just because whenever they got the money, they filmed a little bit and then stopped, and then filmed a little bit and then stopped.
Love that.
And when I watched it, it was so good. Like it was like really good. I was so impressed by it because it felt like life. It felt like a documentary. It could be the way it was filmed because they used like really cheap film stock, but it just felt so real and genuine. There wasn't any theatrics to it. It was like, this feels like life. And I highly recommend that. So if you ever have the chance to check it out, it's called Girlfriends. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, and it's called the Bechdel test.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was not aware of this list or test. Okay.
Yeah, I can give you the criteria. Hold on. I have it pulled up.
Yes.
The list. Oh, hold on. Okay. I'll give it to you later. Like,
okay.
Because then I have to find like the criteria.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else you want to say about it? Like why you picked it?
Oh yeah,
why about the movie? Yep.
Yeah, so why I picked this movie? Well, first of all, it's one of my mom's favorite movies, but the reason is kind of a cool story. My mom later in life came out as lesbian, and she met her partner when they were 16 and 15, or 14 and 16, or 15 and 17.
That's very similar to this movie. I think they meet each other when they're 14. Yeah.
She was a foreign exchange student from a different country, and this foreign exchange student was staying with my mom's best friend, and they became pen pals like for years. Like for 20 years, they wrote each other letters and they sent pictures of their kids being born and like all these things. And then later in life, reconnected in person in real life, and kind of, romance and love blossomed. And although this movie isn't obviously like the portrayal of a lesbian relationship,
no.
I think like my mom and her partner really loved this movie because I think they saw elements of their relationship.
Oh yeah,
like the friendship, because they were best friends. They were still to this day like, this person's part of my life, and they were just best friends. And I think it just like, and I also picked it because, like I said, we listened to the playlists or the CD,
soundtrack.
The soundtrack, like hundreds, like I was singing along to every single word of every single song in this movie. And my favorite is Otto Titzlinger. And I used to sit in the back of my mom's car singing it really loud and playing it on repeat. So it was just joyful to like re-experience that music, the music history of it.
So that's good. That's cool. All right. So I guess I'll talk about what I thought of it when I watched this. So this is one I also watched as a kid. My mom would record like tons of movies on VHSs. So I think on one of them, I'm not sure which one, because it was as a kid. I probably, I didn't watch Beaches. She watched Beaches, so I watched it with her. So I did see this as a kid. There's like parts. I think I remember like most of the movie. You know, it's always been in here. So rewatching it, it was kind of good to see like, oh, okay, so this is how it plays out and whatnot. And I do remember my mom loved this movie so much that she got the book. I think there's multiple books. I think there's like a book and like a sequel.
Huh.
And yeah, where it has like more of the adventures of Cece and the little girl, you know. But yeah, hang on, let me go to my notes because I did write notes. Let's see. Oh, one of the things I kind of liked, just like on a nerdy film level, like, oh my god, I could do like a little mashup with this, is that the way that Cece is introduced under the boardwalk, like reminded me of like Pennywise. Like I should do like a little mashup because like the way they meet, because she's like underneath the steps, like, where are you from? You're lost. And like, I don't know where I'm at. And then like she knows exactly what hotel it is. I was like, oh my god, this is like a horror film. But it was good though. It was good. I liked this movie. It was great. I did not know, because as a kid, you don't know directors and whatnot. So as you go to older, you learn all this stuff. So I found out today, as I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is Gary Marshall. He's the one who did my favorite movie ever, Pretty Woman.
I love Pretty Woman.
I love Pretty Woman. Oh my god.
You can never watch that movie enough times.
I love Pretty Woman. I really do. And then in this movie, you could find, you like, not only does it say like directed by Gary Marshall, but throughout the movie, there's like things he does in his movies that I was like, oh, he did this in Princess Diaries. He did this in what do you call it, Pretty Woman, and he does it in this, and I'm like, that's got to be him. That's got to be him. That's his stamp of a filmmaker. Is that he'll do like little weird character moments, like it'll be someone in the background or somebody shows up, and it could be part of his troupe because Hector Alonso does show up as a judge with the neck cast, and I'm like, that's Gary Marshall there, because like there's no reason for the judge to be in a neck cast, but he throws it in there.
Pretty Woman?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he used
the same people.
His Diaries.
Yeah, because he used them in because he's like he uses these specific people.
Right.
So Hector Alonso is like he's the first guy who notices like Julia Roberts that she's beautiful and helps her out with the money. And then in Princess Diaries, he plays the limo driver who's actually in love with Julie Andrews. Oh my God. So Gary Marshall has his little troupe of character actors that he uses, and that's what I noticed that as well. Because there's a scene in this movie where the guy goes, "Que sera, sera, whoever."
I was like, who's that guy?
I'm pretty sure he is that kind of guy. That's like a Rick Dalton point. Like, I know that guy because I'm pretty sure he's in Pretty Woman, because I think he's the guy on the elevator. It says, "Have you seen her in this hotel?" And I think that's him. I definitely know
the elevator.
It is. The bellhop. Yep. And I definitely know him from Jingle All the Way, because he's one of the two guys who laughs at Arnold Schwarzenegger's face when he's looking for a Turbo Man.
Oh my gosh.
Because there's Chris Parnell from SNL who's like, this guy's looking for a Turbo Man, and the guy goes, that guy is this dude, I'm pretty sure. And oh my god, I think he's maybe it's wrong because they all sort of look the same, but I'm almost wondering if he's Mr. Robitussin from Princess Diaries, the neighbor who's writing. I'm not sure. They look similar.
I think he is Mr. Robitussin.
It's very, very similar.
Oh my god.
We have a comment here. Gary Marshall is also great as the casino manager in Lost in America. Dude, apparently he's in this, and I completely missed it because I looked after the fact. Gary Marshall does do a cameo in this. I think he's one of the commercial old men in the seats in the beginning when they're auditioning Cece. That's the story of the two old men. I think he's one of those guys. But I realized, like, oh my god, this is Gary Marshall. So he does these little things in the movie where he'll just throw like a little random thing, like the dog Arthur, and oh god, there's like another thing in this movie I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. There's something else in the beginning of the movie where he's like throws in like something, and it's like, oh yeah, like of course. Oh yeah, like hitting the heater.
Yep.
I'm like, that's got to be a Gary Marshall thing. And there's just like these little character things, and then even Spalding Gray showing up out of nowhere. I was like, oh my god, Spalding Gray's in this. Spalding Gray was like a guy who like worked on like documentaries and stuff. He plays the doctor, the gynecologist when he comes up with the big giant tools. Yeah.
Also, Leona, Cece's mom, is the mom from My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Oh my god, she is, isn't she?
Yes, she
is.
My
god. Yeah, but like this has everything. Let's see. Oh my god, so this whole movie, it's like when I started watching it, I was like, oh god, like it's the whole movie is melancholy because I know how it ends. I've seen this several times as a kid. I think the same age as you. Like I haven't seen it since like the 90s, maybe early 2000s. But like I could just feel all this melancholy because not only like do I know what's going to happen, but the movie implies it because she gets the phone call and just like drops everything to go to see her friend.
Well, and also at the very beginning, Hillary's mom, like they foreshadow that because her mom died when she was young.
Yes, that too. That too.
Yep.
But before we even get to that flashback, I like how they show visually like Cece is like a huge star. Everyone's asking where she's going, where she's going. She needs a plane ticket, and then she drives past a sign that says that her concert's tonight. So she's like, "This is important. Like she's got to get there." She tries to get on the plane. She can't. She gets in the limo, and she can't get in a limo. She rents a car, but
Yep.
and then it starts telling the story, and I'm just like, oh my god, I know how this is gonna end. And it just had like that feeling of melancholy, and it was so sad because you could tell that Hillary as a kid probably didn't have that many friends because she was rich and they probably just protected her. So she made a friend, randomly, somebody who just helped her. Like this little kid just helped her, had no problem, didn't see class, didn't see her as a rich person. She just saw her as this little lost kid, and they became friends that way. And it was so nice to see that too, because Cece slowly learns that, oh my god, Hillary has like power, because they go into this hotel and they're eating dinner, or no, they're not eating dinner, so they're gonna have like a milkshake or something, and like she has so much power. Yeah, my father's here. Yeah, you know what? And it's like, oh my god, we're in a classy place. I shouldn't be here. And then I like how she tap dances out of there. And then, oh my god, there's just so many things in this movie that I like right in that beginning. But what do you call it? And then the letters they start writing letters. I was like, oh god, they're getting older and they're dealing with all these things. Oh my god, that was so sad. Oh, all right, hang on. Let's go to the notes here.
Like, I can't. I'm so sad.
Yeah, the whole thing is sad because I'm like, ugh. But I'm trying to remember what part I cried at because it's a little later on. It's not at this point, but it just had like the like any like hard moment's gonna get me. So let's see. Oh my god, you know what scene I really loved as a guy who likes like I don't know, like I like when they direct a scene and it's almost like a oneer. I think it is a oneer in this just because how they play the scene and the layout. Oh my god, I loved it. But it's the scene when they're having the argument at the makeup store. And it is like, this is like, we're going to do it in one shot. I don't know why Gary Marshall did it. I thought it was so interesting. But like it's like this, like, so they're walking together and then one overtakes the other. And then she walks around her and they walk this way and they're walking this way. It's like they're trying to control the conversation and they're overpowering each other. I'm like, oh man, Gary Marshall's working his magic. He's directing this argument because it's so good. Because like when they're like, it looks like they're having fun, but then one overshadows the other, and then the other one shadows the other, and then she walks off screen, and then she controls the camera because she walks off. So it's like, oh geez, now I got to walk over there, so the camera has to move over there. I was like, oh man, this is great. I love it. And it's one of those scenes like because they're arguing about petty stuff. They're trying to figure out what they're upset about, but in reality, they don't dive deep into that until years later, into the flamingo room. Right. Oh, I even wrote, here it is. I see my notes now. The flamingo room broke me because it was when Cece admits that the letters always helped her, no matter what. She was like, I can't believe you did that to me. Stop writing to me. You have no idea how much those letters meant to me over the years. Like my life was shit, but whenever I got a letter for you, it meant the world to me. I didn't even, the excitement. I think that was one of the lines, like the excitement I had before I even opened the letter would make my life. I was like, oh my God, this is great. This is so sad because they had like a falling out over like petty stuff. And it wasn't even like the real thing they were upset about. And they just had to talk it out. Oh my God. The line that made me crack up was the news that Arthur died. And then she's like, oh my God, Arthur died. And then Hillary didn't even know who Arthur was. She's like, there's the dog. He was chasing a laundry truck and he got hit. Oh my God. Yeah, it was so fast. Oh my gosh. And I like how there was like a little throwback to the beginning of the movie because the little Cece gets paid by the rich Aunt Vera or whatever her name is. Versus here, it'll keep you honest. Yep. So later in the movie, Cece is rich and she walks past like a doorman and she gives him like money. He's like, "What's this for?" He's like, "To keep you honest." I was like, "Oh, that's great." I kind of wish it was like a younger person though, because it's in the scene. It's like an old man.
Yeah.
I thought it would have been so much funnier, or maybe a little more like, "Oh, that's gonna continue." If it was like a younger woman, like he's like, "Oh, what's this?" Like, "Here, it'll keep you honest." Like, that would have been great. That would have been great. Let's see. I got a comment down here. The cinematographer for Beaches also did LA Confidential and Heat. Yes, and Hudson Hawk. Oh my god. Anyways, what else my notes are? Oh yeah, my other thing was, I said it already, but the whole movie just feels like this looming melancholy of how it's gonna end, of where it's leading. And you know where it's gonna lead because Cece's on her way there. Every once in a while they'll cut back to her getting there. But you're like, what's it going to happen? And it leads up to it. It's almost like Oppenheimer. You got Cece going here in modern day, and then you got these flashbacks, and then they finally meet up towards the third act. Oh my gosh, it was wonderful. What else? Oh, I like how no matter they were in life, they always ended up together, and I like that it wasn't typical because like as I was watching this, I forgot who cheated on who because I was like, oh my god, John Hurt's going to cheat on Barbara.
I forgot about that completely.
I'm like, Bette Midler is he going to cheat on Bette Midler? And it wasn't. It was the lawyer who cheated of all people. I was like, oh, geez, John Hurt's a good guy. And I was kind of bummed out that towards the third act, John Hurt sort of gets forgotten about. Yeah. I kind of wish there was like one more scene because like there was a good scene where they get back together as like friends, but I wish there was like one more scene where he helped her like said something nice or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Throw a scene in it. He's gone. I'm like, one more scene. You're paying for him.
One more scene. Has more to do with like the storytelling of like,
that could be it.
The story is actually about these two women. Mm-hmm. Like he was just kind of like a pawn in the story, and after they got over it, like they don't need him anymore. Yeah.
But like towards the end, he comes back because he sort of revives her, gets her back on track.
Right.
But because there's like some I think they were just trying to cut it down because there is one scene that I was like, ooh, what's that? But like right in the beginning, there wasn't like a good transition because there's like a lot of great transitions in this movie where like they show an item and they like one of my favorite transitions was like when they went to them singing carols on Christmas. It starts at the tree and goes down, but there's like a scene where it's like a harsh like crossfade where it's like I think she just gets there and then it crossfades to like the van. Whenever before she puts on the rabbit outfit, there's like a crossfade, like a harsh crossfade. I'm like, was there a scene cut? And they didn't know how to transition between the two scenes, so they just crossfaded. That was like the only thing I noticed, but everything else is like perfect. I like this movie. It was wonderful.
Love listening to you talk about film. I'm like, I noticed none of this. This is fascinating.
It was good. And like I did notice that even back then they did some ADR, but they don't throw it with every damn scene. Like nowadays, they would have like a throwaway ADR line. The one throwaway ADR line in this where I was like, oh yeah, that's after they edited the movie and like we need something here. But when she's in her bunny outfit and she's walking up the stairs, she says, if you call me Bugs, I'll punch you or something. I'll deck you. I'm like, there's not even like a quick thing, but I'm like, okay, so they just recorded that afterwards. But it's like, all right, I like it. It's not all over this movie. It's just that. But yeah, I'm trying to think what else I liked about this one. Because there's a lot of good stuff in this movie. I like the storytelling. I like the actors. Barbara Hershey's great. Bette Midler was wonderful. I kind of wish, like, if you were to redo this for nowadays, I don't want you to, but just in case you did.
They had a remake.
Yes, with Idina Menzel.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh, I kind of want to watch this now.
But I was going to say, like, if you're going to do this, I think it should be an actual musical. I think that would be nice. I think that would be really cool. Oh, yeah, that was the other thing. This movie gave me like a flashback. I'm like, oh, my God. Now, that's a story I haven't thought of in years. But in second grade, we had pen pals. And that was like our assignment just to, like, write letters or whatever. And then at one point, like, we'd all meet up at the, I think, Evangola Park and then, meet our pen pal. And I remember meeting my pen pal and they didn't want to talk to me. All they did was write the letters for assignments and they just hung out with their friends and I ended up sitting at the table by myself. Aww. And I was like, oh my God, this movie reminded me of that. What? Unlocked.
Unlocked trauma. There it is.
Unlocked trauma from this wonderful movie, Beaches. I see there's also a comment where instead of peaches, they wrote beaches. That's funny. Thank you, Jacob DreamWorks. But yeah, that's what I thought about the movie. I thought it was wonderful. It's one. I don't know if I could I could probably watch it again. I'm not. It's not. I didn't dislike it, but it's like it's one of those ones like you have to be prepared to rewatch it. I think that's the phrase I should say because it's so sad. It's so bad because like it really is. It's like an oncoming storm,
Yes.
even though it's so happy.
I know it's been a while since we both saw it for the first time, but do you think I should ask Ari because he watched it with me for the first time last night?
Mm-hmm.
Think that the story feels just as melancholy to people who haven't seen it before?
That's what I'm wondering too. I'm wondering that as well, and I'm wondering if I like it more because I'm older. Because I'm noticing that there's some movies as a kid that I don't quite get, but then when I got older, I liked them more. Because my mom was asking me this the other day because I just did my top 20 movie list, and one of my number 2 pick was Casablanca, and I say in the video that I watched it in high school and I didn't like it. I couldn't get into it. I thought it was boring. And then when I got older, I got into it. My mom was like, why is that? Why is that? What do you think that? And I'm like, well, I think it's because you have more life experience. Because when you watch it as a kid, you don't quite click with the themes or the elements in the story. Like you understand them well enough, but you're like, you're not, it doesn't grab you until you're an adult and had some life experience. Like this one, Beaches, I feel like it definitely hits harder now that we're getting older because as a kid, time moves so slow. But then when you get older, time moves so fast. There was like a transition in this movie. I was like, oh, Jesus. Whereas the baby's born, and then the next scene, she's 4. And I was like, oh, my God, that hit me. Because I was like, oh, man, that's like real life, man. Because all our friends in high school are like, a couple of years ago, they didn't have kids. And now they have like 2 or 3 kids, and they're like 4 or 5, 6. Yeah, it's crazy how fast these kids are growing up. And it's like, oh, damn. Life is moving so fast. And it's almost about like legacy as well. Because one of the darkest scenes in this movie I felt like was like CC Bloom remembers like, oh yeah, remember we did this, and Barbara Hershey Hillary's like, no, I don't remember that. And she said, no, of course you do, you must remember. And she goes on and explains the whole memory. And then she's like, my memory's long. And just to say, like, bragging, like, my memory's long, I remember everything. And then she walks out the room, and Barbara Hershey's just like, I'm counting on it.
Oh my God.
Like she's like Thanos or some shit.
That's where I started crying, I think.
It's almost like she was testing her, like, no, I don't remember it. Tell me. And then I'm counting on it.
Oh. Yeah, that one destroyed me, that line right there.
And then it was so sad because I understood that, like, when she was in the hospital, she's like, I don't want Victoria to see me like this. We got to go. We got to get me out of here. I was like, yep. Because I remember when I was in the hospital, I was like, I don't want my friends to see me like this.
Right.
Don't, because like that always bugs me whenever I go on Facebook and someone's sick. They always have a hospital picture. It's like, no. It's like, if I'm sick and dying, I don't want people to see me. I'm like, remember my fun memory. Remember however you remember me. I don't want you to see me with tubes in me. That's just terrible. I don't like that. But yeah, I like how they go to the beach house, and they look at that sunset, and it's just like, oh God. And then the other thing, I thought was cute, and I was like, that's another Gary Marshall moment that they probably just did a little pickup, and because they didn't need it, but it's there, and I'm like, no other filmmaker would do this. Whoever directed that movie, The Vow, wouldn't do this, and whatever romantic comedies have come out recently. But there's like a little scene where the boy and the girl are sitting on the stairs.
Yes.
And she's like, I'm going to the CC Bloom concert. He's like, can I be your date? Like, he doesn't even understand what he's asking. I love about this child actor. And she just like gives him a look. I was like, that's perfect. That's like Gary Marshall's like, all right, hang on. Let's do this little scene here. Let's like film this. But yeah, it's like, I like sweet stuff like that because that's totally Gary Marshall. And I love that. I like Gary Marshall movies.
I didn't know I like Gary Marshall movies, but now that you've given me a list of them, I do like Gary. Like I do. Yeah, he sort of has that. Like his films always see the brighter side of the situation. Because I remember, behind the scenes, they always talk about how Pretty Woman was a darker story and I heard about
depressing. That. Yeah. But he saw like, let's just make it a fairy tale. Let's see the brighter side of the story. Let's make this happier. And he did it. And I feel like that totally works. And he sort of did that with this as well. Cause I don't know how the books are. I don't have no idea how accurate.
I was thinking, I'm super curious to know like how this translates. Cause so much of it is like the music and like the
and montages and stuff. Like
and I'm like, how, and I was even wondering like, do they explain the musicals in the book? Like, is that a Titslinger in the book, or is that like an addition of the movie? Like,
yeah,
I have to do some more research on that, but I was curious about it.
I also like that too. I liked that Barbara Hershey's character went to the library to
Right.
like really learn about her illness. She did not want to be that. It's like because it could have been helpless. It could have just been a doctor explaining it to her, but it sort of gave her more power and more control of who she is by her going to do the research to figure out, I'm going to die from this. There's no way out of this. Like, I need to prepare. And oh my God, even that scene was sad when Barbara, what I keep calling Barbara, it's not Barbara. It's Bette Midler, when Bette Midler is talking to the little girl and she's like, I don't know why, but she wants me to be with you, or, you know, take care of you. And it's okay if you don't want me to. And it's just it's so sweet and so sad. And that felt so genuine. It's like, I miss movies. I miss like when movies felt genuine. These days, it's so like, it feels so like calculated and whatnot. But yeah.
I thought it was really interesting. Like Cece's character, right? She's deeply insecure.
Oh yeah.
Deeply like, I don't think she's selfish in a malicious way. I think she's selfish in like a deeply insecure way. Like, I need external validation to feel good about myself. Like, I'm insecure about my hair. I'm insecure. And I mean, that's the reality of like being in that industry. Right. And I thought what's interesting is she doesn't really ever grow out. You don't see that change in her character. Like, she doesn't quite ever grow out of that insecurity. Even in that like, that's what was striking to me in that last dialogue is like, I don't know why she picked me. And she's like saying this to this kid. But what's interesting about it is like, being a parent to a child is like the most selfless thing you can do. And if you're doing it well.
Yeah.
And I think it's Victoria's character, the kid, and Cece are very much alike, right? You see that in that.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Like, and that kind of going head to head. And I'm super interested. Like, I would want to know, like, how does Cece does she become more secure in herself, right? Like, does this kid help her to see, like, you were chosen for a reason to be the mother, right? It's almost like this coming into your own and acknowledging, like, she could have left this kid with anybody, and like, she left her daughter with you, right? Because I think that's part of what the Hillary Cece dynamic was. Like, Hillary always saw this, always saw the greatness of Cece. Like, always thought she had a beautiful voice, just always was her biggest cheerleader, her biggest supporter. You can never see that in herself. Right.
I agree with all that, because like, that's exactly how it plays out. This whole movie is about like friendship and support, no matter what, no matter how even the tough times got. Because even when they fell out, Cece still wrote the letters, and apparently Hillary still read the letters before she sent them back. Oh God, that was heartbreaking too. Jesus, after the funeral, that whole room was just full of the letters. I was like, oh God. That's like a sequel in itself of just like I could see that as like a TV series or whatnot, where it's like, this is like the pilot, and then the rest of the show is just like the daughters like reading random letters and how they deal with her life. You know,
that could be nice too.
Yeah, because I could totally see that happening, where it's like a girl who doesn't know her mother that well, but like knows her enough. Like, oh, there's like little moments in this movie. Oh God, like I can't remember them all because I just watched a Scanner Darkly. But yeah, it's like there's like really great little character moments and just like little details about the story. The hands. Oh, the hands. Like, that's exactly it. Where it was like, oh God, I don't want to forget in these last moments of my life. Like, I don't want to forget the hands, and just like generational stuff, and and of course like the selflessness and like getting like feeling confident about yourself, because what's her name? Not Cece always had that in her, but she was just so like, she didn't feel like she had it, you know, but she always did have that confidence. She just didn't have, like,
to just sing like that. Like, when I'm like, I would literally shrivel up and die if I was a child trying to like dance in front of people, right? Something that I would be like amiss to not talk about is like a grief coach and death doula is just, it just helped me. This movie really helped me reconnect to how powerful storytelling is in the grieving process, because like for me, today's actually the 2-year anniversary of my grandma dying. And I've like this week, I've just been feeling really congested emotionally. Like, I just like not feeling anything. Right. And I'm like, why am I feeling like this? What's wrong? Like, just what the fuck's wrong with me? I don't understand. And it was interesting because last night when I watched this movie, like I just broke down and I like sobbed and I'm like, I miss my
Mhm.
mom, I miss my grandma, like
Mhm.
I am sad, like I'm really
Yeah.
sad, and like and seeing like this little girl looked like me, like I had that same haircut, like seeing her
Mhm.
and just seeing that story play out on
Yeah.
on a picture, right? It created this movement within me of emotion, right? And
Mhm.
I think as people are going, like we all experience grief, whether it's death or a divorce
Mhm.
or like even good things, right? Things that
Mhm.
we want to happen. Like I got married, but you're grieving your single life. Like
Mhm.
movies and books and storytelling is just such a powerful way to move that emotion
Mhm.
when you're feeling really stuck. Like when you
Mhm.
feel like I can't, like I want to cry, I'm looking at this picture, like I'm trying, I can't. Because
Mhm.
a lot of times I think what happens is it's easier to get emotionally invested in like a character on a screen or in a book,
Mhm.
and to really go on that emotional journey with them and to feel sad for them and
Yeah.
sad than it is to feel sad for ourselves in our own story. But it's like
Mhm.
that tumbling effect. Like I feel sad
Mhm.
about her and now I feel sad about me and now I can cry
Yeah.
about me. Right.
Mhm. I totally agree with that because like that's one of the things I like about movies because it connects us all. Like everyone could watch a movie, everyone could relate to a movie. Movies help us get through emotional times because we relate to the characters. The even though everything about movies are fake, like the backgrounds look fake, they're fake acting and like that wall's not real. That day is night and night is day, and but they genuinely create feelings that help people get through things, loneliness or happiness or sadness, grieving, like you're saying, or just to, that's what I like about movies. It brings you emotionally together and you can relate to other people and relate to yourself and find out things about yourself while watching a movie. And
Oh,
that's what I love about them. That's honestly why I love movies so much because it's a genuine connection, even though everything about the movies is fake. That's what I find interesting about it. It's just like it's so wonderful these things. And watching beaches it was great. It was a good experience. Um, yeah, because like there's a lot of little moments in this that I can't even like remember right now. But that's what I like about these things, where you notice little things that you're like, oh, I like that, I like this, I like that, and now we're talking about and we're connecting over this wonderful movie from 1988, which I can't believe. I was like,
oh
that's
my
like the same year as like Die Hard and all that. I was like, and how it's still relevant to nowadays because I felt like the only thing that dated this movie is like the fashion, but the
God. And the
storytelling
library.
is so good. On the library, I still like going to the
I
library.
know.
Everybody else.
You're sitting at the computer now, but yeah,
Yeah,
you did
yeah.
very well.
Yeah, but I do like that. I like how this does feel timeless and you could read I think that's probably one of the reasons why I was thinking like how could we redo this today? Like how could we bring it new? Because it felt so, like you could tell the story today. You could tell the story 30 years ago and it still stands the test of time. And I like it. It's good. It's
It was
very
good.
good.
Good
Mhm.
pick.
Good pick. Good pick. I agree. So I think anything else you want to say? I guess we could do that. What's your favorite scene in Beaches before we move on?
I love the Otto Titzlinger song. Like I know every word to that song. And I have like vivid memories of my best friend from high school and I sitting in the back, or I think it was middle school at this point. We were sitting in the back seat of my mom's minivan and we had this soundtrack playing and we were like singing this song and like doing the dance with it.
Mhm.
Like my mom, we were singing it with us and just like, oh my God. I just love that. I love that song. I love the scene. I want to see that musical. Like I
I
wish
know. I like how it was good for 2 years. It was a big giant hit, and I thought it was funny, but they're like, ooh, ooh. But then again, it was the '80s, so this might have been fresh
is
because
that
like
a
now,
real musical?
I don't think so. But I
I was
just
like,
felt. I'm just saying, like in that time era, maybe something like that was taboo, but like nowadays, it's like, oh yeah, that's fine. Like we have like Avenue Q or whatever.
that's
You know what
true.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like times have changed of humor because I was watching like this seems like a normal Broadway play. Maybe at
Yes.
that time it was like risque or whatever, but I was like, yeah, this seems normal with the humor and stuff. I'm trying to think of my favorite scene because I asked you that. Now I have to think of it. I put myself on the spot. I believe my favorite scene, I think it's definitely the flamingo room when they get back together. because there's so many moments in that where it's just like it's both of them showcasing their acting abilities, the emotion. Like that's the part when everything gets back together and they get past their issues. And I do like the little bit of humor when they go to the bar and she's like, make this a double. It's good stuff. Yep. And then I think it ends with like, you've gotten so fat. It's like, I'm not fat, I'm pregnant.
I love like does not hold back at all. Like, why are you fat?
They're just like out with like honest with each other because they're best friends for 20, 30 years. Oh God, that's the other thing. It's just like how the other thing I like about this movie is just how time is represented. It's just how like quick it goes and the different fashions they do and all that. It really they really do convey that a lot without doing too much. Even like how like John Hurd, the dad from Home Alone, like in the beginning he's young, but like when they meet up again later in life, he has a little bit of gray here, and I'm like, that works. That's good. I like that. It's not over the top where like they have like old age makeup, but it's like a little bit of like realistic gray, and I was like, that's good. I like that. And even with the mom, because the mom was played by the same actor in the beginning of the movie. Cece's mom.
I was so curious to see what she was gonna look like in the future because we know what she looks like now. You know?
Yeah.
They kind of nailed it.
Yeah, they did. I think they did. I agree. I was like, yeah, that looks like her now. Oh my God, there was like a name at the beach. I forgot what the hell the name was. I'm like, oh my God, I recognize that name. Like someone on the beach had a name of like someone I know, and I was like, oh, that's like a curious. I forgot what the hell it was, but it's like one of the old men on the beach. They say his name, and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting name. I forgot what the hell it was. I should have wrote it down. But it's like one of the old men who go see like, oh, hello, Cece, hello. But like he had like a weird name. I was like, I have a friend with that name. Oh, it was Coons. That was it, because like it was Coons, because like I have a friend named Luke Coons. So that was it. The old man was named Coons. I was like, I know it's a friend. What was the friend's name?
That's a unique name.
Yeah, Coons. So, with that being said, let's go to my movie.
Are we gonna
scan it? Oh yeah, let's do the Rosenbaum. Okay, we'll do the Rosenbaum for Beaches. How many do you give it?
I'm gonna go with like a solid 2 roses.
I'm gonna go 2.5. I like this one.
Oh, look at you!
I like this one. I like this one. I like Gary Marshall. I like the feelings I got. I might buy this movie. I might buy it. I think I will. It's one of those ones. I like it. And there's like, I think there's some good lines and references. Like, I feel like there's some good, like if you knew somebody and watched this a lot, you could definitely have some inside jokes with this movie.
Oh, for sure.
There's for sure. That's what I like about it as well. I was like, this is a movie. Like, if I knew somebody who knew beaches as well as me, it's like, we could be quoting this all the time. I like it. I love it. So we did the Rosenbaum rating and favorite scene. Okay, so we're good. Okay, so my pick for this week, based off a book, is A Scanner Darkly. A Scanner Darkly is based off a Philip K. Dick novel he wrote in the 70s, and it was almost autobiographical on his life because at that time he got divorced from his family.
His fourth
wife. Was it his fourth wife? Yeah. Oh my God, I didn't know that. I just watched like a little quick behind the scenes. I didn't know his fourth wife. Okay, no wonder why I fell apart. Okay, he's on his fourth wife. When you're on your fourth wife, stop it.
Just stop
it. Just stop. But anyway, so he would invite like vagrants in his house or like people he knew off the street into his house. So he sort of like lived by that. And since he was into sci-fi and had like these weird ideas, people were on him. He had an FBI file. He had a CIA file on him. So I thought that was interesting. Like after, watching the movie, I looked that up. I was like, oh, dang. So this movie is about this guy who's working for this like drug agency, like the police, the surveillance force. His name is Fred, and he wears like a scanner suit so they don't know their identities when they're inside the police station. They wear these weird futuristic suits, and it's like constantly changing their identity and face and everything. And their job is to surveillance and figure out where this new drug is, where 20% of the population is addicted to it, called Substance D. And what Substance D does, it like affects your mind and brain and all that. And Keanu Reeves plays the Fred character. That's his undercover given name by the police. But in reality, his name is Bob Arctor. And then he's actually told to narc on himself. And he's so deep on the drug that, like, because the drug affects the hemispheres of your brain, like left side, right side, that he actually has like a personality shift, and he doesn't know who he is because he thinks himself as a cop when he's at the police station, but when he's out on the street, he's Bob Arctor, and he doesn't know that he's narking on himself. He has no idea, because that's revealed later in the movie. Because you think he sort of knows, but at the like second act, third act, you're like, oh geez, this guy doesn't know. He has no idea that he's narking on himself, because he separates the two identities by doing that. And then even at the end of the movie, he's given a third identity, which probably is his real name, I would assume, and it has to deal with that. And then he has like his roommates who live with him, a very controlling liar, a Barris, who's played by Robert Downey Jr., and then you have like the pothead airhead Woody Harrelson, who's also his roommate, and then there's another drug dealer named Donna, who's his girl, but not his girl. And then later on, you find out like the truth behind Donna, which I found interesting. But I like this movie just because I remember when it came out, it looked so different to me. It was like, I think it came out 2006, and it was a lower budget. I remember like getting this Entertainment Weekly and stuff. I just like the look of it. It's like, I want to see this movie. I want to see this movie. I didn't see it until years later, but like when I finally saw it, I think I saw it when I moved to LA, and the Blockbuster that was there. And funny enough, I do own the same copy I rented, because that Blockbuster closed down. They were selling their DVDs, and I bought the copy I rented. So I have the Scanner Darkly that way. And I just like the look of the movie because it's rotoscoped. It was like a new way where I think they filmed it digitally, drew the outline, and then had like artists fill it in or something like that. But it was like rotoscope, and it really adds to the feeling of uneasiness, dreamlike. You not know what's real, what's not real. And it's one of those sci-fi movies I feel like that really hits home. And again, it's like Beaches, where like you could tell the story in the 70s, you could tell it now. The topics and subject hasn't really changed, if not more. Like there's a line from my show Red Letter Media where it's like, the movie isn't more relevant, it's just times are still shitty, or times are still the same. Nothing's changed. It's not more relevant, it's just the same. So with this movie, it's like, it's weird to see like all these surveillance and all these cameras, because like that's where we're in now. That's the world we live in. And even with like the cell phones, it's even more so, because like there's like things out there now where you find out that your camera's taking like infrared photos, secret pictures of you as you're on their phone. But yeah, I thought this movie's so interesting. It's so great. And this was like a time people might not remember this time, because now these actors are famous. But with this, I feel like maybe it was a gamble, because at this time, Keanu Reeves had sort of flops with The Matrix, like they sort of went downhill. So no one really wanted to work with him because he didn't have successes. And then Robert Downey Jr. was also a drug addict, and nobody really wanted to work with him. And then at that time, I think Winona was still trying to get back into work because she shoplifted, and that was a huge thing. So it was like a weird era. You don't remember that?
No.
In the early 2000s, she was like infamous about like robbing from stores. Like she had like an illness, like she would steal from stores. Look it up. There's like t-shirts that say like Free Winona, and like she had a hard time getting work during the 2000s because of this. So I find it interesting that all these actors were in this movie at that specific time, and I was like, ooh, that's.
What about Woody? Where is Woody at this time?
Woody at this time? I'm not sure, but I found it funny that his hair is exactly the same wig that he wears in the Hunger Games. I was like, that's hilarious.
Woody is like kind of the same, like he kind of plays the same character in most movies.
I know. The same thing with Keanu. Same thing with Keanu Reeves, where he's sort of the same guy. It's just like
Robert Downey Jr.
I guess so too. Let's throw him under the bus. Let's throw Robert Downey Jr. under the bus.
Well, I mean, I love them all, but
there we go. Yeah,
I love them because I know what I'm gonna get when I watch their movies.
Yeah, Klepto Queen. That's what Shane Ford. Yeah, she was robbing, like stole from stores infamously, during this time, but not during this time, but before, like recently during this time, like 2001, 2002. It was like right around that, maybe even 99. I don't know. It was like right in that era. But yeah, it's interesting to see this movie being done at that time, and not only that, but this is like fresh during that, because this was like during the Bush administration, so all the surveillance was like really kicking in, so they felt like it was like relevant again, the storyline. And from what I recall from hearing multiple sources, I feel like this is pretty close to the book. I did read some of it as a kid, but you know, it didn't stick in here. But from what I did read, it sticks close to the book. I think some people are combined, like the Rory Cochrane character, the guy who's like scratching. I think that's like 2 or 3 other characters. Oh. But other than that, it's like all the stuff that basically happens in the book. Because I do remember reading that in the book, the scene when he's like taking multiple showers and then showers with the dog and tries to pick the bugs, and the bugs are no longer in the jar. That's all in the book. And I think even in the movie, there's a scene. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the movie. I'm sure I just need to explain the plot. But anyway, finishing this up and I'll hand it off to you. But there's like one scene in the movie where I think it's just like verbatim from the book, is when the guy plans his suicide. And he's laying on the bed. I think that's all verbatim, like written text from the book, because a narrator comes in and starts explaining it. And I was like, oh, I think this is just text exactly from the book. So
I like that.
With that, I like that part too as well. Oh, and before we move on to you, I just wanted to mention that was Alex Jones in this movie as the guy with the blowhorn at that restaurant. I was like, that's so weird. That's not what happened. Like, now that history is, showing us like Alex Jones, he sort of played the similar character back then. Like, this is our tax dollars at work. Look at this. And then he gets tased. Oh my gosh. But anyway, so what did you think watching this weird sci-fi movie?
So this was probably one of the first movies we've like in this, or I was like genuinely excited to watch it. Oh yeah, I'm excited about this one. And I found it really enjoyable. Like I love like dystopian, futuristic, like that genre of sci-fi. So I was like, I had to go. I'm still not 100% on the plot. I'm like, I've had to read several reviews and articles because I'm like, wait, what? And like even you talking, I'm like, wait, the Keanu didn't know, like Bob Archer, he didn't like, didn't realize, like I didn't even, it's one of those, it's like that, I remember the first time I saw Inception, I was like, oh, I love this movie. Yeah. Right? Because it's so like so many levels. Like this movie is like Inception on steroids. So like you really paying attention.
Yes, you have to be paying attention, and then like probably a second viewing, because at the end it all comes together and it's like, oh geez. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah, continue. I don't want to take over, but go ahead.
Oh, but well, you gave me the ending last episode. You told the ending before you knew it was going to be. So I knew what it was going to be, but I still was like, I'm lost. But it's really interesting because it became more interesting as I started reading about the story behind the author of the book and how it's like his portrayal into the darkness that we hold within ourselves. Like the film and the scenes are all like, there's bright lights, there's city lights, like there's this idea of we can't get away from a screen, from a surveillance, you can't escape it. So the only true darkness in life is the darkness within ourselves, and the darkness within ourselves is like our fears, our compulsions, our addictions, right? And I thought that was like, I was like, oh, that's good, I like that. And his little dialogue about like, is the darkness within me or whatever. Yeah. Right.
Does it see me? Does it see me truly, or am I dark? Yeah, exactly.
Or am I scanned directly? So that was great. Yeah. Okay. Wait. I'm like trying to gather. Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm still trying to patch together the storyline. I think it needs another watch.
Oh, definitely. I think this is like a multiple watch, because even this time I was like, oh, this is like all about control. Because like it's all like, there's a good scene like during the second rewatch, I was like, oh Jesus, he's explaining Donna, and then during the scene I'm looking at Donna, I'm like, oh, she knows, she's relating to it. But there's a scene where Keanu Reeves, it's like the infamous like image where it's like Keanu Reeves at the passenger seat and she's driving the car. And he's talking about how he doesn't like Barris, Robert Downey Jr., and how Robert Downey Jr. is all about controlling and lies. And he's like sacrificing, his friends and people around him in order to control them and just find their weaknesses and control them. And you could see Winona Ryder's, like, her eyes are shifting because he's basically talking about her, because she's controlling and she's always been in control. And she's been using his emotions against him because like she's been holding out on him and not giving it like emotions. And whenever she does show emotion, she's controlling the emotion. Like there's a scene where she puts his arm around her, but then other scenes when he wants to get like she doesn't want to, because it's not part of the control. She's controlling him through his motions. And you could tell this when she plays the character of Hank during this like scene where he's like, how do I get to Donna? He's like, how do I get to her? And buy her flowers, blue little flowers. So that's put in his mind later in the movie subliminally, because he's such a burnout. He has these things connected to emotions. So when he gets so burned out, he'll remember the flowers. And even later in the movie, she's explaining her dreams, like, I want to go to the cabin in the mountains and live on the farm. And that comes in at the end because she's prepping him, like giving these like,
oh my God, I did not realize that.
She's giving him these clues to
God.
really subliminal it, like, okay, you're going to go to a farm, you're going to see mountains, you're going to live in a cabin, blue flowers, and it's all about control because like she wants to get him back into the house. It's all about control of like his emotions and whatnot.
It's like the real, like you think the addiction is the drugs, but like the addiction between their dynamic is like the emotional withdrawal. Like he's like craving emotion, and like she's only strategically giving them to him when it benefits the case.
Exactly. It's so good. There's like little underlining things, and then one of the other things I didn't notice until this rewatch is the guy in the hallway, Mike. Mike in the hallway is like, oh, you're being transferred, Bruce. You're going to the farm. That guy, Mike, is the guy who's talking to Winona Ryder at the end in the restaurant. Because he's like, even I tried to get to the farm. I can't get to the farm. So we got to trust that Bruce gets to the farm. So I was like, oh, Jesus. So he's already tried to infiltrate the new path, but he can't get to that next step. But Keanu Reeves can.
Oh. So one of my questions is, the company that's manufacturing the flower, right, the drug,
is also sponsoring them.
Is also sponsoring the police force.
Yes. It's
and
like
surveillance, and all the surveillancing.
The surveillancing, possibly. They don't really explain the surveillancing because like there's two different surveillances. There's like one with all the scanner suits, looks sort of low tech as that local one, but then there's like a higher one that they show in the beginning. I don't think they really showed again. But they show that. But I think it just implies that everyone's being surveillanced. Like everyone is being surveillanced in this movie. Because even Robert Downey Jr. has the stupid little cameras around there, other than the ones that are actually in the house. You know what I mean? So everyone's watching one another. It doesn't matter. Like I think there's even a similar line to it. It's like during these days and age, like everyone carries a gun. So I feel like that's what could be said about cameras in this movie. Everyone's carrying a camera. You know what I mean? So there's like things like that in this movie, and it's so. Like there's so many things because it's all about like emotional and like withdrawal and whatnot. You're exactly what you said. It's like, there's so many things. That's what makes it good sci-fi. I feel like it's like there's like underlying scenes and dialogue and how you could like wind that in. And I like how that Robert Downey Jr. he's also controlling. I can't
figure that character out. Keep going. Sorry.
I was gonna say he's the one who undid the car thing for the brakes because he's the one who tells Keanu, "Hey, pass this van." So they run into that issue with the cars and the gas because he did it. And you can tell how calm he is. Like, oh yeah, this is what happened. Blah, blah, blah.
What was going on with him? Like, I could not, like, was he just like super intelligent or like super schizophrenic? Like
with him, it's like almost all the things. Like I feel like what he's doing is trying to almost like save himself. You know, like because he's trying to rat out on his friends, even though he doesn't know that they're actually undercover cops or whatever. He's trying to rat them out because he thinks like, blah, blah, blah. And he's trying to save himself, like for the police, like, oh yeah, I knew this all along. Meanwhile, he's an issue. He's the problem. He's like one of the, underlying things. He's like no different than because he's paranoid about surveillance. So they probably want to keep a cap on him. You know what I mean?
And then that first scene where you get introduced to his character, where he's like going, it's after the itching and they're having the food, like what is he's talking about, like not like about basically like all against drugs, but was he just doing that because he was being watched?
I think he's just fucking with the people around him about control, because even that one scene is about control when he just lets Woody Harrelson choke.
Right.
He doesn't save him, but then he tries to get control by talking on the phone, blah, blah, blah. Oh, my friend's coming back together. Okay, never mind. And then talks to him like, oh, it's you. You're the one who has this issue. You're the one who didn't chew right.
For gaslighting.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's so many scenes with him like that, where because he does that thing about the gas, and then later on when they're fighting in, I think like in the driveway, there's things like that. I like how they actually weave some humor in as well. It's not all miserable like a Watchmen, because I feel like Watchmen is like completely 100% miserable. There's no comedy in here. There's like a little bit of lightheartedness weaved in at moments, at times.
The 18-gear bike.
The 18-gear bike, exactly.
I'll give you 25.
Yes. We have a comment here from Shane Ford. He wishes there was more sci-fi noir films. I know. I wish there was some more movies like this where it felt like, like there's an actual vision, This one felt like there's like a definite vision and someone who wanted to work on this.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I feel like there's a lot of movies out there where, like they just make it, but this one felt like someone who actually wanted to do this.
The road. I'll be honest. I totally am on board for why they did the rotoscope, and like I think it really sells the point of like these people are living in like a drug fever. Like it looks like a drug fever, right? Just the way that like that's how reality probably looks to these people who are on this drug. But I really wanted it to be just live action. Like there were so many parts of this. I'm like, I want to see the side, like the cool suit. Like I want, like there's so many things that I wanted to see in the real.
Yeah, I like how those suits are introduced, and I like how when he gets more addicted to the drug, how it just genuinely looks like a blob. Because in the beginning, when he's sitting in that room and he has to make that speech in front of everybody, it does look like a suit. Like he's wearing a suit, like there's an outline on it. But like in his last meeting with Hank, it's like it's just a blob, and the room is shifting. And things are like really looking bad because he gets addicted to the drug.
It was so confusing throughout the movie for me. I'm like, why don't they he's clearly addicted. Like, why is nobody giving a shit about this? Right. Like that part was like very perplexing. I'm like, and obviously you find out why, but
yeah, because they want him to get addicted. So he gets to the work farm. So he's all burned out. So he doesn't know he's an agent, so he could pass the thing. Again, I feel like what you said with Inception's like you have to convince the mark that he's along with the mission in order to succeed. So like the same thing is, oh my God, you did like that's a good comparison with Inception because like they're trying to tell Cillian Murphy, like no, we have to go here, we have to do this, we have to do that in order to find this. And so this is exactly the same because they're trying to convince Keanu, like this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, and then he gets so lost into it and absorbed, he actually accomplishes the mission, which got me because I was like at the end when he says, "Oh, a flower, and I'll save this for my friend at Thanksgiving." I was like, "Oh my God, poor Keanu."
I always like what he just pretty much gave his life that like he's gonna be fried forever.
Yeah, and he doesn't even know it. That he gave his
like there's no consent. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So okay, and then the other part I didn't quite understand is he was surveillancing himself.
Yes.
But like how so the surveillance wasn't in real time? Or like
so I guess it wasn't in real time because he was watching a recording, because I think that's even mentioned. It's like these are all recordings. I guess you could watch in real time, but it's boring as hell. That's what they said. Because in real time he wasn't there.
Right.
That makes sense.
Right.
So he would have to watch the recordings.
And he just didn't recognize himself?
I guess there's that as well where he doesn't recognize himself, but I think he's so addicted to this drug that his mind's already separating, because there's a moment, but you don't even know if that's real or not because it's all from his point of view, basically, where he has a flashback of what the house used to look like and the kids, but you don't even know if those kids or if that's a real memory.
I was wondering that too. I'm like, because he was saying I have a family and kids, and she was like, most agents don't. So I was like, yeah, that was also confusing. I was like, is that real?
Yeah, because he has that flashback of having kids, and then there's a scene later in the movie when he does his scan. No way, I think the darker. No, it's the scene when he gets home after being analyzed by the doctors. He's looking at the house saying, there should be a family here. It's not being used for what it is, because he completely forgot, the other memory he had, either as Fred or Bob or Bruce. I'm not sure which is his real name. I have a feeling his real name is Bruce, because the Fred name is just the name that the police station gave him. But I just find it interesting that the police were totally trying to find any way to figure out who's selling this drug, and they were willing to sacrifice anything to figure it out. And sort of like how Robert Downey Jr.'s character tries to do that, but he's trying to save himself or, control other people. Because even when he's giving out the drug, because he has the little substance D, he's giving it to Woody Harrelson, he's giving it to Cannon, but I don't think he's taking it himself. He's controlling them and getting them more addicted.
I didn't notice that. See, I missed so many important. I was also crocheting on and off in between, so maybe.
Yeah.
But no, that's really because Woody Harrelson or Robert Downey Jr.'s character perplexed me because I'm like, he's got this anti-drug thing, and then he's taking, and then I thought at first is he not an addict? But then he was taking the drugs, and
and that's another interesting thing where they're like, you could just faked it. Because Winona's faking it the whole time. She's like, she acts like she's taking it, and then you never see her smoke the pot that they find. She's like, yeah, I smoked it, but she just probably put it there just as a, a placement.
You think Winona? Do you think Donna remembers who she is on. Like, do you think
Yeah, because she's not addicted to the drug. She's using Keanu. She doesn't partake in the drugs.
I wonder at what point like Keanu just gets so engulfed into his story that he becomes,
I think when we meet him, he's already been on it. I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but we don't know how long he's been on. But we definitely know he's definitely been on it before this movie starts.
I think that's also another really cool thing about a good sci-fi movie is they drop you in the middle of the story. A lot of times, like you don't get all of that background information. You get kind of dropped into it, and you have to put it together and figure it out what's going on.
Yeah, they even kind of do that with just like laying out the world of how surveillance it is. Because it's sort of done as a gag, but like after thinking about it, you're like, oh, geez, that just shows how so many cameras are in this world. But when in the beginning, when Robert Downey Jr. is talking to Rory Cochrane, he tells him like, oh, we could get cocaine. And then it's like a comical, like fast forward sequence. But like it's showing and not telling, but it's showing how this world is heavily surveillance because there's cameras of every bit of the way of their way to the store and on the way home. And it just shows how many cameras are in this world and heavily surveillance is. And it's all without explaining it. Like, oh yeah, this is what this is. Yeah, it's
done
as a gag.
It was written in the 70s. Like surveillance wasn't even literally, I don't think, a thing in the 70s. And it is like we do live in that world now. But like to us, it's just so normal. But we look at a movie like this, and we're like, that's so crazy and weird. But it's actually happening, right? Like like people have even like willingly install cameras in their house, like Ring cameras and things, right?
Or even like Alexa. Like I don't understand people who do that. I don't know. I'm not just if you have Alexa, that's okay. I don't do Alexa. I don't trust it. That's like one step too far.
You're like, I'm not giving Bezos my information.
That's too much because I already feel like my phone's already listening to me. It's like I look up a freaking JanSport book bag and then I get all these ads for JanSport book bags. It's like, stop it.
It just shows like the power of like the power of gradually going into something, right? Like when you're being tortured or like they're trying to get information out of you, it's like a gradual, like one day it's 1 and then it's 2 and then it's 3 and all of a sudden it's like 100, but you don't know that it's changing, right?
But yeah, I like this movie. This was a good rewatch and a good interesting way to revisit the past because I like that Robert Downey Jr. He's like one I miss making like real movies like this where it's like it's a real movie. It's not stupid Tony Stark. He has talent, damn it. He has talent. I miss it. But yeah.
So what made you pick this movie then?
Oh, it's because my mom told me.
Yeah.
She suggested it. She suggested it. I'm like, yeah, it's been a while since I haven't seen that in a while. I want to rewatch it. Because this is one I wanted to rewatch it. I like this one. It's like what do you call it? It's a old favorite from the when I was in high school and college, and I wanted to revisit it. I was like, this is a good reason to revisit it. Why not? And I do like the rotoscope thing. I don't think that's really been done recently. I believe Richard Linklater did it again in another movie called Waking Life. I haven't seen it though, but apparently it's like all short vignettes with animation. But yeah, I do like this movie because I just watched a DVD copy of it, and that's the Best Buy copy. But yeah, it's good. I want to know if there's a Blu-ray though. I would love to see this really crisp because like the DVD is sort of like low quality, little blotchy. I would like to see all those little paint streaks, high def.
This is like I'm not a film person, but something I've always been curious about when they like. So when you say they actually like draw over every scene, like do they literally draw like they have to, or does it do it on a computer where it can like?
Well, this one's different because it's actually hand drawn. This is similar to what they do in even like with Snow White.
Really? Every movement is drawn.
Because like back in the day, Snow White and several other Disney movies did this technique where they would have the actors act it out and then draw over them. When Snow White's dancing with the little dwarves in the jacket, that's all rotoscope. Another rotoscope thing is like when Tinkerbell was trying to open up the things because they actually had big giant props with the actress and they would just trace over it and use her as like a reference. I think Ralph Bakshi more so did like rotoscopes so it looked like, a weird thing when he did Lord of the Rings back in the 70s. And then what's another rotoscope thing? More recently so is sort of like Gollum, where they animated over him, so it's like all the actor performances, things things like that. But yeah, they've been using the rotoscope for years, and I like how they did that with this one. I think nowadays it'd probably be more automated, but back then, the what do you call it? People hand drew it, and I think the color might have been animated, or not animated, but automated. I'd have to look at that thing. There's like a behind the scenes thing on the DVD. I didn't have time to watch, but yeah, I think they talk about it more.
Interesting. That feels very tedious.
I think it's just a way to get it to tell the story, because everyone's, or at least the point of view, because you're mostly seeing this from Bob Arctor's point of view, where it's just all drug field, where like the bugs come out, and I don't think could really do that in real life, or I don't think it would look as interesting. And then I like the shifting rooms. Whenever they walk into a room, it just looks like weird. It's like, oh no, like the things are moving, like everything's constantly moving, which I kind of like, where it just looks weird. And I feel like that's probably what it would look like if you were on drugs.
Totally.
Yep, totally.
All right. Favorite scene?
What's your favorite scene?
I had to go first last time.
Oh, fine. I'll go first this time. All right. All right. My favorite scene is definitely the fight outside in the driveway, where they're like it's almost like a sibling, like a weird little family, where it's like the older brother's picking on the little brother, and Keanu Reeves is just watching this, and then like the neighbor friend comes to see what's going on, and then he gets freaked out because he thinks it's like a real fight, and meanwhile it's not a real fight, because Robert Downey Jr. goes to get the hammer, and then he picks up a rock. It's just totally ridiculous. And like, are they kidding? Are they not kidding? But it's like, of course they're just idiots.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
I much like in the same vein, I really like the 25 gear bike scene, because it was just like, what is happening? This is so ridiculous. He's like, $50, 25 gears. Like, who needs 25 gears, right? Like, they're like, the whole thing of like, oh, it was a steal, and then Donna's like, oh, that looks like the bike that got stolen from the neighbor last month or whatever, and she's like what? And it just felt very classic. Like, I like watching the bickering and dialogue between Woody Harrelson and Robert Downey Jr. and Keanu Reeves, and like the four of them. Like, it was fun to just kind of follow that dialogue.
Oh, wait, Shane Ford says Waking Life came out first. I didn't know that. I thought it came out afterwards. Wow, I did not know that. That's interesting. So how many Rosenbaums?
I'll give it I think a 1.5 rose.
1.5 rose? Okay, 1.5 rose. I think I give this a solid 2. Give this a solid 2. Because I feel like some things aren't quite explained well. And I feel like maybe a scene or two could have like ironed things out. But I do like this movie overall. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's close to it. And I like how it is evergreen, where times haven't changed and it's still kind of relevant to nowadays.
Yes. 1970, 2006, and 2023.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. One of the things that inspired this was that Watergate thing, that Watergate scandal. So that's why he had like surveillance and recordings on the mine, because of the Nixon era.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Love
so
it.
Next month, what should the theme be?
What is our theme? Well, it's my birthday next month.
Ooh, it's your birthday.
September. And it's the beginning of fall, the best season of all the seasons.
Yes, the best season. We were lied to as kids to think that summer was fun.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. So fall and birthday.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Back to school. Back to school. Yeah.
Okay.
You got anything coming to mind?
Do I have anything? I think I want to laugh next month, so I want to pick like a happier movie. I'm not sure. That's what I want to do. I was looking at my 101 movie list, and I'm wondering which one to do so we could talk about it. A little light-hearted one. Let's see. What haven't you seen? I will name them off as because it'll be spoilers for some people. So I'll name off some comedies I have on here. Clue.
Clue's a good one. I've seen it.
Oh, you've seen it? Dang. Okay. So. Silver Streak is another one. No, not Silver Streak. Is this Silver Streak? It is Silver Streak. Yep. Because I'm thinking I got it mixed up with Blue Streak. I'm not talking about Blue Streak. I'm talking about Silver Streak. It's the one with Gene Wilder, which I do love. What else I have on here? It's comedy. You've Got Mail.
Love that movie.
Okay. Singing in the Rain.
Shane says Silver Streak.
Silver Streak. He wants me to talk about Silver Streak. What's another one on here that's like fun? Oh, Galaxy Quest. Mm-hmm. That's good. Analyze This. Top Secret. And then let's see. Ooh, High Fidelity. I kind of want to talk about that one. It's been a while since I've seen it. But yeah, those are some of the ideas I have. Like, do you have any ideas for a theme or whatnot? Other than like, what order have you picked? Like, what do you feel strong about?
I was thinking about the 5 People You Meet in Heaven, because that was like what we were.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Month, and I was like, oh, it's my one of my favorite movies, favorite stories on my birthday month. So I was leaning towards that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so still the 5 People Meet in Heaven. Okay, so that one, that one's one of your favorites. Okay, so that's one of your top favorites. Okay, so
it's one of my favorite, like the movie, maybe not favorite movie, but it's my favorite book.
Oh, favorite book. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Let's see. So you had a favorite movie, birthday, September. Let's see. Shane Ford says High Fidelity rocks. I don't know. It's that one is like, I like it, but it's it's a little bit dramatic, because I really do. I just want like a solid, like I want to laugh.
Like love it.
Yeah, I want to laugh. I want to have a good-hearted one after Scanner Darkly and Watchmen. It's like I want to have some fun. Let's see. I'm really looking at
the Lost Ireland Collection episode.
Yes. What do you call it? So to explain this, so for the folks at home out there watching this, who might tune in, so I wanted to do 101 movie list, AFI style, and everyone was like, "No, just do 20 because we know how long your show can be." So I only did the 20, and of course it did end up being long. But I was like, I still want to make the 101 list to help me out with the top 20. So what I did was, Sarah, I made 119. I picked out 119 movies. It started with 100, and then I went to my DVD room, and then there was like 19 more I liked, and then I whittled it down to 100, and then automatically I was like, okay, which ones are my all-time favorites? Boom, 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 boom. That was 30. So I was like, I got to get that down to 20. It got a little sad. People got sad because like all-time favorites got pushed off the list. So I made my top 20. So that's what Shane's talking about. He's talking about like the lost list, because there was a time where I wanted to do a whole stream about all 100 movies.
119.
I'm not going to do the 119, but I'll do the 101 at some point. But I want to do like a montage with all the movies. So I've been slowly ripping DVDs and Blu-rays to do that, because I want to do a sort of a music montage or maybe a countdown starting at 100. I want to do creatively. I want to do it creative, but I'm not sure what. But yeah, that's what I want to do. That's the explanation of the 119. Oh my God, Shane. Let's see. Suggestion. Oh, what do you got to say? Morning Glory, September Flower and Comedy. Morning Glory. I do like that one.
I've never seen Morning Glory.
I think that's what she's talking. Let me look it up. Morning Glory. I think that's the one with Harrison Ford, correct? Oh, geez. I don't like Bing. I'm sorry, because like my web browser goes automatically Bing, so I typed up the Morning Glory and it gave me the flower. No, I'm talking about the movie, of course. Oh yeah, I saw this in the theater when it came out. Yeah, it's a not romantic comedy. I think it's just like a comedy sort of. Maybe that's what I'll pick.
What?
Devil Wears Prada.
I love that movie.
Damn, you saw it already. Damn.
Of
course you've seen it. Of course. What am I saying? What am I saying? Of course you've seen it.
I haven't seen it in a long time, and I've picked movies you've seen.
That's true. You know what? F it. I'm going to pick Pretty Woman. The hell with it.
Oh my God. Yes. I am so excited about this. I'm like so pumped.
I'm picking Pretty Woman.
Yes.
Because Gross Point Blank. No. I don't want to put Sarah through that. At some point we will. At some point we will talk about Gross Point Blank. But I genuinely want like a fun movie that like, makes me go like, and a good-hearted movie. And I think Pretty Woman is.
I love Pretty Woman. That is such a classic.
I think I've shown on a previous stream, but I showed again my custom, we call it Vivian. Yes, but I love Pretty Woman. Love it. So I think we'll pick that. I'll pick that for next month. So what's yours? What's your official one?
Mine's going to be the 5 People You Meet in Heaven.
Okay, so that's official.
It's a little sad, but it's overall good.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
rocket, sorry.
Yeah, that should be good. I like it, but we'll figure out the date offline just in case of the plans and whatnot. But yeah, I like that. So I'm gonna pick Pretty Woman because it is another spoiler alert for my list. Pretty Woman is number 47 on my 101 list.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. So I'm excited. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Shane Ford, Juliana, and Jacob Dreamworks. I guess before we head out, I want to answer his question. I don't think he's still here, but he says, question for you, Frankie. How much about about how much longer does the program need legacy? How can it work? I'm not sure. That's why I asked the question of what people want. So that's just for him. I'm sure if he tunes back in or whatnot, but I'm not sure how it'll work. And that's a different subject for a different stream. But thank you for everyone for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah, for watching and letting me watch Beaches again.
Yes, thank you for introducing me to a Darkly scanner.
A scanner Darkly.
Love me some Keanu.
Yes, Keanu Reeves. And
Also,
Robert Downey Jr.
Love going down like the conspiracy theory of like Keanu being like doesn't
Immortal.
Immortal.
Yeah. I felt that until I saw John Wick 4, and I'm like, no, he's getting old. He's definitely getting old. He moves slower, and John Wick 4, I was like, oh no, COVID delayed it too long. Anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in. Maybe one time I'll recommend John Wick, and you can watch it.
I want to see it. Also, do you think that this little creature needs dinner or what?
Yes. Oh yeah, we'll go.
She's like attacking me. Bye, guys.
Okay. Bye.